Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Steve Kirch. I am the principal of Profit Minds LLC, and our Profit Minds Growth System allows us to help small businesses grow and scale. Tonight, I'll be talking about a little different way of doing annual planning using a strategic plan. And so I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can, see that. Is that visible? All right.
Yep.
And I'll do a little bit more introduction when I get a little bit further into give you a little bit of my background. The Profit Minds Growth System is about growing profit. Interestingly enough, for those of you who are in the financial industry, which I guess is everybody in this room, that's obviously one measure of financial health. We also work with our clients on productivity and building business process for scale. And of course, then you can feel like a pro. In the profit space, what we're really about is trying to help people stop random acts of marketing. So many small business owners, even large companies, sometimes seemingly do random acts of marketing. Helping our clients build a pipeline of as many prospects as they can handle, turning those leads into clients, maximizing the value of each client, pricing for profit, not just to win business, and put more money in the business owner's pocket. In the productivity space, working first with goals that really inspire you, working from your own priorities, not somebody else's, making daily progress. It's about progress, not perfection. Dealing with distractions and procrastination, and building good habits for the future. Your brain likes to make everything a habit, but the brain can't tell whether it's a good habit or a bad habit. But the whole deal here is we're working with a compass and not a clock. In the business, building robust business process for scale, working from your own vision and values, using a 3-year strategic plan that impacts today's actions. And in fact, that's what we'll focus on today. Working on an accountability matrix, making sure that you know who is responsible for everything in your organization. Then, what do you measure? What are your key performance indicators? What are your objectives and key results? Building a meeting structure and a cadence, and finally, team building and evaluation. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I'd appreciate, since we have such a small group, I'd love to get to know you just a little bit better. So if we could go quickly virtually around the room. Rick and I have known each other for 4 or 5 years now, I think, through various networking groups. But I would love to understand who you are, where you are, and what you do, why you're here. So start with Norman, and then we'll go to David.
Yeah, absolutely. Norman Carranza, based out of San Francisco. I have been in the private accounting and finance space for a little bit over 20 years. I've been with my current company for about 5 years, doing strategic planning and doing everything that you just talked about. So I'm here to find better ways to do things.
All right. David, can you unmute and share?
Good evening. My name is David Hamilton. I'm an internal control and audit consultant living in Concord, and I just thought I'd listen in and get some great tips and ideas. Thank you.
Sure. Krishna and then
Sure.
Elizabeth.
Okay, I'm in Seattle. I'm a CPA MBA. I've been in finance for over 30 years. First 25 years of my career with Hewlett Packard in US. The past 6 years, I've been with a global BPO company as a senior vice president finance. So I'm here to learn. Thank you.
Great. Elizabeth, and then Khadija.
Okay. Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm sitting in Houston, Texas, and enjoying the cold weather. Yeah, you guys pushed it over to us. But in
sorry.
any case, I am in risk management and internal audit. I've been doing that for a number of years. At first, I used to be a controller, but I gave that up, went back into audits. Recently, I started a small company for myself. Don't have any clients yet, but it's incorporated. And I saw this session and I thought, maybe I can learn something that I can put to use in my own company.
Great. And is it Khadija?
Yes, hi. Khadija Cooper. I'm a chief financial and operations officer for a nonprofit in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've only been in this position for about 6 months. I came from a private equity backed medical startup where I was for about 3 years. So basically trying to kind of take the business lessons learned, from the for-profit world and apply them to the nonprofit organization, which is a little bit tricky.
Yes.
The organization I work for has been around for over 40 years, but they have experienced tremendous growth in just the last couple of years and their size. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Okay, thanks. And Rick, do you need to introduce yourself? Does everybody know who you are?
No, not everybody. Norman does, and Krishnan. But I've been a member of the FANG for 21 years now, and it's helped me through transitions and even to what I'm doing now. I've made a switch into the franchise industry, and I've been in it for 7 years. I do a couple of things that help businesses become a franchise and grow. So my learning from Stephen's webinar can also help those business owners, and then also work with individuals who want to become business owners for a variety of reasons. But I've maintained contact with the FANG and also am the chapter chair for the San Francisco chapter. Thanks.
Great, thanks. And it's great to be here. So I'll do a brief introduction of myself now. So it's a little bit weird for somebody that does what I do, which is, business coaching and consulting. I have a PhD in physics. I spent over 30 years in high tech. A couple of little companies that you may have heard of. I worked for about 9 years for IBM, and then Intel lured me to come to California. I worked for IBM in New York, and then Intel lured me to California, and I was there for just shy of 22 years. And always in an engineering management role. But a few years into my time at Intel, I was introduced to the Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it was transformational for me. And when I found out they were looking for instructors, I put my hand up and I said, I'll do this. And became a certified facilitator. And I've been doing that for 25 years now, at least. I've been a mentor and a coach. I retired from Intel more than 6 years ago and started my own business as a as a business coach and consultant, primarily in the productivity space. But since then, I've added the profit growth, strategic marketing, as well as the business process. And I've taken over 20 organizations through my version of EOS. That's why I have it in quotes here, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is what some of this is based on today. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I've been married to this lovely young lady here in the middle for more than 40 years. She just retired from her job as a church music director. And our two girls, Kathy, the older one, is an adjunct professor of writing at Columbia University in New York. She also is an entrepreneur, has her own online business. And daughter number 2 got a master's in mathematics from Boston University and now works as a research architect in artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence at a startup. It's actually, interestingly enough, based here in California. I live in Livermore, by the way, but I spent 25 years, close to 25 years in Pleasanton raising our kids. And the company that Susie works for is based in Pleasanton, but they don't care where she lives, and she wanted to stay in Boston, so she's still there on the East Coast. I'm on the board of a nonprofit. Maybe we have a few things to talk about, Khadija. I'm the treasurer of the Gratitude Network. It's a nonprofit, and we specialize in helping nonprofit leaders scale their organization. So some of my work on EOS has been to help them scale. And when I'm not busy with my business, which my wife says I do way too much, you can find me singing, riding my bicycle, playing golf, or running, and I'm very involved in my church. So that's a little bit about me. As I said, I have, for a number of years been helping small businesses grow. And today we're going to focus on using the future to plan the present. So let me ask a question. How many of you are familiar with the Rockefeller habits? Have you read Scaling Up by Vern Harnish?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's some really important things here, right? About the executive team. Everybody understands what one thing must be accomplished each quarter, right? Meeting rhythm is important. Customer feedback, core values, all of these things, right? This is sort of the heart of what Gino Wickman took and put into his system, which he calls EOS. Called EOS, based on the book Traction. I don't know how many of you have read that book. It's a really good system for helping a business to scale. And there are these sort of 6 key elements of Traction here surrounding your business. The challenge with that is that it puts the business at the center, and I would like to suggest that we might be better off if we put you at the center. And I'll spend a little bit of time talking about this, but part of I think what's really important in terms of coming up with goals for you, for your organization, for the organization that you live in, that you work in, is they need to be aligned. You need to have, if where you're trying to take your organization takes you away from what you want to do with your life, you're always going to be torn. And how do you really focus on what's important to you if what's important to the business takes you out of that? So what we're going to do today, and look, everybody's heard about BHAG, right? Jim Collins' big, hairy, audacious goal, right? Anybody heard of a 3HAG?
Mm.
No, it's a bit unusual. Yeah, a 3HAG is a come on, a 3-year highly achievable goal. And so this book by Shannon Susko, it's also based on Vern Harnish's Scaling Up. So one of the things that we'll do tonight is to get you started down the path of creating your own 3HAG, your own 3-year highly achievable goal. And then we'll look at that and use that to help create your strategic plan for your business. And what are you going to work on this week, this quarter? So it's a little bit different way of approaching an annual plan. Most businesses that I'm aware of, some of them have a long-term plan. Maybe they have a BHAG. And I know the big boys, like when I was at Intel, we always had a 3 or 5 year strategic plan, and we always built our this year's plan based on that. But it wasn't explicit. So what we're going to do tonight is a little bit different from way many businesses plan. They say, well, here's where I was at the end of this year, the end of 2022. So I'm going to be, 20% bigger in 2023, or I'm going to add, X percentage clients, or I'm going to double in size, or whatever it is, right? What we're going to do tonight is we're going to start with a 3-year vision, and we're going to work backwards. All right. But let's start with you. So I'd like you to take out a piece of paper. All right. Or open a Word doc on your computer, and write down the phrase, the year is 2026, and I want you to let's just take 5 minutes and write a quick outcome statement for yourself. Where are you 3 years from now? Start my timer. Where are you with relationships? Where are you financially? Where are you living? Is it the same place where you're living now? What your key relationships? What are they like? Another minute or so. Everybody done? Anybody need more time?
I'm finished.
Finish.
All right. Stop that. Go. All right. So anybody want to share? Anybody have any flash of insight that they, wow, this is something that I hadn't done before?
I don't mind sharing. So what I wrote is that in the year 2026, I am a fractional CFO. I see myself helping my current employer finish with its 5-year plan that we've put together. I also see myself helping 3 other small businesses complete or prepare their strategic plan and helping them with their execution. I also see myself co-owning 3 small businesses. I have 2 daughters and my wife, and I want each one of them running each one of those businesses, and I see myself helping them through that. So I've had a number of ideas, and this is the year where I start, where I continue the plan to put all of that in place.
Cool. Anyone else want to share? Thank you, Norman.
I can go.
Sure, Elizabeth.
I wrote, the year is 2026 and I am retired from corporate roles working for other people. I'm now fully immersed in my own business. Business is well developed with a healthy profit margin and a steady stream of customers. I can work from anywhere, so I have my retirement home in Florida, close to the beach and close to my sister. I'm enjoying more mission trips with my church, and I'm a philanthropist working with many charities. That's it.
Right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. All right. So now I want you to just right below that, write your business outcome. The year is 2026 and my company org department is, and here, write a quick outcome statement for your business, department, organization, company, whatever it is, right? Whatever you're responsible for, that will make that personal outcome a reality.
Not sure I understood that.
So what's happening in your business that makes that personal outcome? So the personal outcome is where you're living and what kind of resources you have and what your relationships are like and things like that.
Okay.
So many of you, when both Norman, both you and Elizabeth, when you wrote those outcome statements for your personal life, there was an awful lot of business flavor to it, right? So the real question is, what are the things that are going to be, what are the things that you're going to need to have in place in 3 years in order for those things to be a reality? So I mean, I can share mine if you want. That might help.
That'd be helpful. Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
my personal one is the year is 2026, and I'm planning 3 long vacations with my wife. Money is not a barrier at all to what we want to do. We're again able to support our favorite charities at a significant level, just like we were when I was making huge sums of money in the corporate world. And like you, Elizabeth, I'm able to spend go several times a year on volunteer trips, mission trips with my church. Okay, that's my personal outcome. My company 3-year outcome, the year is 2026. Profit Minds generates over $1 million a year in revenue. I have 2 full partners, and they're sharing business development with me. We have group coaching as well as one-to-one clients and more than 20 coaches in our system. And this enables me to have the freedom to only have 2 or 3 clients that I work with. And the freedom to do those things that I talked about in my personal statement. Does that help? Does that make sense?
You have the timer going?
I do.
Okay. Got a minute or so left. Do people still need more time? You ready to move on? Sure.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So why did we pick 3 years? Why did we say 3 years? I know a lot of companies do 5 years. A lot of companies have BHAGs, a 10-year vision. They have all of this kind of, one of the reasons that I think the 3 years works better than 5 or 10 or 20 is 3 years is far enough out that you can start to think about things being different than they are today. But it's close enough that if you're going to get there, you need to start taking action now. Something that's 5 years out, something that's 10 years out. In fact, Jim Collins says this in his book, Good to Great. He says, most companies really severely underestimate what they can do in their BHAG. Right? If you're still around 20 years from now, you're doing a lot more than you thought you were going to do 20 years ago. But the 3 years is strikes a really good balance in my experience between that. While it's far enough out that you can see some differences and you can imagine some real differences, but it's close enough that you better get started. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take those outcome statements, and not today, because we don't really have time in the next 25 minutes to do this. But I would encourage you to build a full 3HAG, a 3-year highly achievable goal for your business or your organization, right? What are those new capabilities that you need to have in place? How are you going to measure that success? What are those big projects that have finished now and are a part of your arsenal in the language of EOS? So you start out here 3 years from now, and then you say, okay, well, if that's where I want to be in 3 years, where do I need to be in 2 years? Now at the end of 2024, in order to be there at the end of 2025, the beginning of 2026, right? What are those 2-year goals? What are those capabilities? Which projects do I need to start now at this point that are going to get me here? And then what do I need to do this year? What are this year's goals? What are this year's capabilities? What are the projects that I need to get started on now? Does this make sense? So we're building backwards from that 3HAG, right? So you start with the goals, right? Then you say, well, when do you need to start the developing those new key capabilities to support those goals? Are there new revenue opportunities that you need to work on? Maybe you need some product, maybe there's some product development that has to be done, right? Maybe it's a long lead item. If you're going to develop a whole new business line of business, right? That takes time. And what about staffing? You need to, are there some key hires that you need in order to develop this capability? What products? When does the product development need to start? So you can start imagining there's a bunch of stuff that if you really want to be here in 3 years, you need to start working on it now. So I'm going to suggest that you pick one area. Maybe it's a new line of business, a new product, an opportunity that you've wanted to pursue for your business. Maybe there's a geographic diversity that you want to expand to another state. I have a client who, we've used this process, and he's started here in California, but he's now opened an office in Utah, and he's just hired a new employee in Nevada, in Las Vegas. So he's going to be in 3 states, and that's part of his vision. What do you need to do in the way of staffing, right? So pick one area to focus on, and then say, okay, where do I need to be in 2 years? And where do I need to be at the end of this year? So we're going to take, like 6-7 minutes is all. Okay. Maybe you don't even need that many. Maybe we can do it in 5. All right. To get to the point where you understand what your goals are for 2023 for this particular area. Does it make sense? Any questions?
I think we're good.
No, yeah, we're good.
Good. All right. Maybe another minute or so? Or is everybody done? Obviously, this can take quite a bit of time if you're doing a full plan, a full, 3-HAG. And you might actually want to bring in, 2 or 3, maybe the next layer of management in your organization, depending upon how big your team is. That's what I do with nonprofits when we take them through this. It's we ask the executive director or CEO or COO or whoever it is that's the leader of the effort to bring in 2 or 3 or 4 of their key staff members, and they have a conversation. We do put them in little breakout rooms, because these organizations are all over the world. So ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about what is a ROC. Quarterly ROCs are providing focus on the highest and impact and most urgent priorities, right? So you can imagine good ROCs are written very, very specific and measurable and time bound, right? Just like SMART goals, you've probably heard of that, right? So a poor ROC would be increase our revenue, right? A well-written one would be increasing our revenue by $100,000 before December 31st. Very clear, right? It's measurable. It's right. And then you want to come up with milestones for each ROC. Milestones are the top action steps, maybe sequential. First have to have this milestone, then you pass this milestone, then you pass this one to get to the end, right? And you use these to tell if the ROC is on track for the quarter, right? So you want to identify 2, 3, 4 milestones per ROC. All right. Again, what this might be: determine criteria for target market opportunities, run potential targets through targeting and prioritization model, develop a strategy for the high priority and donor pipeline. And this would be in the case of a nonprofit, but revenue pipeline, right, to include, X dollars in the next 60 days, right? So again, those would be well-written milestones. So we're going to develop both KPIs and milestones associated with this quarter, right? What's a KPI, a key performance indicator, right? It's really a question of those activities that you can track on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis that will lead to the desired outcome. All right. I want to talk a little bit about lead measures versus lag measures. This is really important. KPIs need to be lead measures. A lag measure is a measure of success looking backwards. All right. These are usually pretty easy to measure. The classic example of this is when you want to control your weight. You step on the scale. That's the easy thing to measure. It's a lagging indicator. It tells you what you did yesterday. Lead measures are predictive and influenceable. Those are the two characteristics that they have. They're predictive of the outcome that you want, and you can influence them. Those are the kinds of measures that you want to have here. Every salesperson knows this instinctively, right? A good salesperson knows that the thing that he or she has to do is count calls. I have to have a certain number of calls this week. Cold calls, warm calls, whatever it is, right? I have a certain number of leads generated, right? Yes, we do measure how many sales we have. We measure the closing process and all that kind of stuff. But the start of the pipeline, how many calls do I make? That's the thing that's critical to count. Same thing is true when you're controlling your weight. There are two things that everybody that's successful in controlling their weight tracks: diet, exercise. calories in, calories out, right? They're predictive of the outcome. The less you eat, the less you will weigh. And they're influenceable. You can decide what you put in this hole here, right? Same thing is true with exercise. More you exercise, the less you will weigh. And you have some ability to decide what you do, how you do it, when you do it, how long you do it. But they're often hard to measure. Okay. So Rick, can you share that video now real quick? I had trouble getting the sound to work from my computer, so something weird with Zoom. So you're sharing your spreadsheet. There we go. Can't hear it.
Yeah, no audio.
Did you click the share audio?
Dollar industry and
Okay, there
growth.
we go.
With that being the case, what's missing from
Skip
those?
the ad and go to
Can you go back?
140.
Yeah, can you go back? Yeah.
No, skip the ad and go to 140. 1 minute and 40 seconds into this. Perfect.
Hitting a winnable game. Discipline 2 is act on the lead measures. No matter what you're trying to achieve, your success will be based on 2 kinds of measures, lag and lead. Lag measures track the success of your wildly important goal. Lags are measures you spend time losing sleep over, right? Revenue, profit, quality, customer satisfaction. They're called lags because by the time you see them, the performance that drove them has already passed. You can't do anything to fix them. They're history. In contrast, lead measures track the critical activities that drive or lead to the lag measure. They predict the success of the lag measure and are influenced directly by the team. A common example of a lag measure is weight loss. Which activities or lead measures will lead to weight loss, right? Diet and exercise. Proper diet and exercise predict the success of weight loss, and they're activities we can directly influence. Right? Now, simple enough, but be careful. Even the smartest people fall into the trap of fixating on a lag measure they can't directly influence. This is because lags are easier to measure and they represent the result we ultimately want. Think of a lead measure as a lever that moves your wildly important goal. Discipline 3
You could stop.
is keeping a compelling scoreboard. People play differently.
Great. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's what those are the kinds of things that you have in your KPIs. All right. So let me share the screen again. Okay. So what I want you to do is, to take the next 3 minutes or so, and answer this question: what activities and key projects are you going to need, right, to get to this goal that you set in the previous things you were working on? And what should you focus on this quarter in order to get there? This is above and beyond maybe the day-to-day that you normally track, right? That you normally do. And then what are those key metrics to track? What are those key things that you need to track, those KPIs that will lead you to the important results? All right, let's take a few minutes and think about that. Because we're running out of time. I'm just going to give you 3 minutes. I know you won't finish. Just another minute or so here, and we'll on to the last couple of slides. Okay, hopefully everybody's got enough of a sense of what's going on here. So the next steps, finish your 3-HAG, flesh it out, right? Build backwards to finish your plan for 2023. Establish the key rocks. There should be just a few rocks and KPIs for Q1. Here's the key. Track it weekly. How are you doing? Rick and I talk about this every week, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And then repeat for each quarter in 2023. Any questions? If you're interested in taking this to the next level, I'd be happy to chat with any of you about any portion of the Profit Minds Growth System. I'm available on LinkedIn. Here's, this is my calendar link here. Let me see if I can figure out a way to get it into the chat. Hang on a second. Let's see. See if this works. How about that? Okay. I'll stop sharing now. And questions? Was this useful?
It's an interesting way to plan. I mean, I remember when I was in finance in my corporate life, a lot of the growth plans were just prescribed without, all right, there's your end game 3 years from now. How do we get there? And let's work backwards and identify things we can do now to get there. Then you're making adjustments along the way. And that's kind of what we're doing now. I mean, my 3-year, is to take 2 companies that I've franchised into a successful exit. That'd be 3 years from now. So what do I need to do in the 3rd year, the 2nd year, and the 1st year? Well, in the 1st year, one of them, we need to get to 50 units sold and opened by the end of 2023. So there are things I can't control, and that's I can't control what my fellow consultants are doing to generate leads, but I can control by doing a target marketing effort to surface interested buyers this quarter, next quarter, and so on to make sure we get to the 50 units. So it's helped.
Love to have some feedback.
Are you going to share the slides with us?
Sure, I can do that.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much.
And Elizabeth, the FANG headquarters in the East Coast will send out the recording of this meeting to you along with the chat
Lovely.
tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you. No, but
And
okay, slides, yes.
yeah. And the other thing I'll say is that I have the ability to train and license coaches to do what I do. So
Mm.
if you know somebody who's interested in starting a coaching practice around some of this, I'd be happy to have a conversation around that as well.
Thank you. This was definitely helpful. Scaling Up is one of those books that I've used for our strategic planning. I think those strategic priorities, or rocks, as you call them, they have been key, and being able to understand that we get to focus on a couple of those, because as an organization, we need to be laser focused so that we can achieve our goals. So I think that was helpful for me.
Good.
This was rather helpful because, as I mentioned in the introduction, I started my own business, and I'm in that phase now after doing all the background work that needed to be completed, paying, signing up every form that I think, and signing my life away. Now is the time, yeah, now is the time to start doing the strategic thinking, the strategic planning, and breaking things down, like you said, into a 3-year time frame, a 2-year time frame, a 1-year time frame. And right now, what do I need to do? And part of the exercise you put us through just now, I was writing down things like immediately what I know I need to do right now to develop, because where I'm at right now is to develop a solid customer base. And so I started jotting down all the things I know that I need to do, the steps I need to take, that I need to do to get there. And what are my sources? How am I going to go about doing this? And so this was rather helpful. I mean, I have all this knowledge in my head, but the way you presented it, it means formalizing it, putting it on paper. And so you can see it and know, okay, I can check a box. This is what I'm doing today. This is what I have to do. And then tomorrow, this is what I'm doing. And if I have to repeat the process, this is what I'm here. I'm step 1, I'm step 2, step 3, and to achieve the goals. And so thank you very much. I think this was extremely helpful and very timely for me.
Glad to hear it. Glad it was helpful.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, sounds like your company is fairly new though, too.
It is. I just incorporated it in June of last year. But it meant I had to pay a lot of licensing and you know, fees and all that stuff up front. And then of course I got a little bit cold feet. I'm like, because it is part of it is sales. It is sales.
Yes.
And this for me, I don't have a sales background. So
Nope.
I don't have a sales background, and this is a scary part. Now I'm like, okay, time to do this stuff. And this is when things slow down. And right now I'm in between assignments, in between consulting roles. So I'm like, okay, I should be spending time developing this now that I do have time on my hands. And so this is, you know, I'm so glad this is so timely. I'm just going to start focusing on myself and my company.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And best of luck.
Thank you so much. And if you do find some extra hours in your day that you want to help me make some sales calls just on the phone, I take any help I can get. And I 1% of the profit.
Just get past the first 10 and your phone will feel like a feather.
You promise?
I promise. Maybe 15, but
yeah.
If there are more